What's up, guys? Andy Kidd coming at you here with a little defensive unit preview today. Before we get into that, just make sure you hit like, hit subscribe. Subscribe to the Talkin VAWLS network. Check us out on Twitter at Talkin_VAWLS. We're on Facebook and we're on Instagram as well. But be sure you check us out. Give us a like and a subscribe, and leave me a comment down here. Let me know what you think about the unit coming up this year. But defensive unit taken over by Tim Banks, comes down from Penn State. And, the question's been asked, what kind of defense is Tim Banks running? Tim Banks has stated he's going to run a multiple defense. Now, what's that means? He's going to be switching in between 4-3, 3-2, 5-2, nickel, dime, 4-2-5, whatever you want to call them. I think you'll see probably a base 4-3 and probably a lot of nickel. That seems to be what teams are going with a lot now. Obviously, if you're multiple, that leaves you open to run different things. But I think Tennessee's personnel that they have, obviously they've been recruited to a 3-4, but I think it can easily translate to a 4-3, which I think will be the predominant base defense right there. And of course, to the nickel as well. But, a lot's going to depend on who's back, who's not. And it's going to be interesting today when they take the field to see who shows up and who doesn't. So, just kind of starting off the defense, the elephant in the room, the big questions that's been touched upon. There's been video after video mentioning these guys. We mentioned them on the live show the other night. What happens with Henry To'oTo'o and Quavaris Crouch? Do those guys come back? Do they stay in the portal and leave or whatever? The answer is easy. If you're Tennessee, you want these guys back. Whatever, if you have to have a come to Jesus with the players, if players are upset or whomever, so be it. But the bottom line is you need these guys. You need these guys. And there's no other way around it. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, they can go or whatever. It's their decision. And, the fact of the matter is guys are committing to coaches instead of schools now. And, from what I gather, these players really like playing for Jeremy Pruitt. They really liked him. That's who they committed to. They committed to, Brian Niedermeyer. He was the big recruiter on these guys. Pretty natural. That's who you came to play for. It's who you wanted to play for, and they want to leave. It is what it is. I'm not going to throw off on them. It's their decision. It's their livelihood. They've got to do what they've got to do. I hope, though, that they stick around. I don't know what the odds are of it. I don't know that either one of them even go through spring practice or anything. But, there was an interview with Brandon Marino, 24/7 Sports yesterday, where Josh Heupel said the door is open for both of these guys to come back. If they're wanting to come back, yeah, absolutely, you welcome them. You don't get hurt feelings over them because they could make a big difference in this defense with them opposed to without them, especially To'oTo'o. It is what it is. We can get upset about his dad's comments. Shouldn't have been made. They were made, but you can't hold them against the kid. He didn't make the comments right there. So, and he is, coveted in the portal. But that's where it's going to start at right there. This defense, that's going to be your leader if he's back. And let's hope he is. That can make a big difference. But, this goes back to I did a video on the wide receivers. A lot of untapped potential on the receivers. There's really a lot of veteran presence on this defense. And, you lost some guys from last year. You lost Bryce Thompson, possibly your linebackers. But really, man, besides that, most of this defense is back. I went through and made a list here, and I'll kind of refer to it. So defensive line you got coming back, and this is alphabetical order. Dominic Bailey, who was a freshman last year. You got Latrell Bumpus. You have got Matthew Butler, Greg Emerson, Darrell Middleton, Elijah Simmons, Aubrey Solomon, Omari Thomas. That's a pretty veteran unit right there. And then you add to that Catrone Evans. You add Isaac Washington. And then there's some guy, Byron Young. I think he's a guy you could see on the line. You could see at linebacker. There's a few of those guys right there. I'm curious to see what happens with Tyler Barron, what happens with Bryson Eason. These are pretty big guys. more suited for a 3-4 as far as a linebacker goes, but these guys may, definitely Barron, I could see sliding down the end and being an every down guy right there. He showed a lot of potential last year, but this is a strong defensive line coach in Rodney Garner, a guy who can coach and recruit, which has been missing, integral part of the national championship in '98 here. Obviously, it's been a long time ago now, but he's been a part of some really good lines at Georgia and Auburn as well. So he was a big addition right there, big addition. Veteran unit, out of this you've got Solomon, Middleton, Butler, Bumpus, and Jaquan, Jaquan Blakely as well. These are guys who've played a lot of snaps. They've either started or they've been in the rotation for a couple years now. So definitely a veteran unit that just kind of needs to get over the top. And there's some good young talent mixed in there as well. I think it's a unit you'll see make some strides this year. I think they'll be much better than they were last year. And they weren't awful last year. I think the crutch with this defense was couldn't cover a slant. I mean, teams week after week after week just killed this team on the slant, whether the linebackers couldn't cover it, whether the nickelbacks couldn't cover it or what. But I don't think the Tennessee stacked up pretty good against the run last year. So they weren't just abysmal by any means. So there's talent there. I list all the linebackers. There's a lot of guys here, but it's, outside of Toa, it's really unproven. I mean, you got Jeremy Banks who's a converted linebacker, so he's really only had a full year there. That didn't get to go through a spring practice in his transition. Aaron Beasley's a guy who bounced around back and forth from defensive back. I think he was at running back at one point, back to linebacker. Another guy hasn't really had a spring practice. Tyler Barron, be interested to see, what they do with him. I think there's multiple options. Defensive line, I think, is an option. Of course, Crouch is a question mark. Is he back or is he not back? Again, I'm curious to see if him or Henry T or either one going through spring practice when they start today. I think that'll tell us a lot about where they're at. And, I think if they go through practice, I like the odds of them coming back. If they don't, then obviously I don't. But definitely the door's not shut on them. Martavius French, now obviously him and Aaron Willis both could be big contributors this year, but they're suspended right now. I don't know how much comes out of what they've done. It was, I don't know. It's speculation. I've only read as much as you guys on it. So, we'll see. I think that's two guys that's potential contributor. Roman Harrison's another guy. What's his role going to be? He was more of a third down guy, more of a blitzer type guy. Does he stay at linebacker? Could he go to end? Morvan Joseph, same thing. I think based on their size, they're more suited for linebacker, but they are guys who could shift down as well. But I would expect both these guys to stay at linebacker, and I very well could be wrong on that. I could see more of an outside linebacker there. And then looking to secondary, you're losing Bryce Thompson right there, but most of this unit is back. Right, I mean, you lost Key Lawrence, but honestly, he didn't contribute last year. And I don't know if that's any fault of his own. He just wasn't given the playing time. It goes back to, like, receivers and these other positions. We're talking about all his talent, and these guys showed out, and then they couldn't get on the field because they didn't know every little assignment or something. But, again, I think it's a unit they're going to let play ball. You got Willie Martinez back here, and I didn't mention with linebackers, of course, Brian Jean-Marie from Michigan, and this is a position as well, would not be surprised to see Tennessee hit the transfer portal with. I think they could withstand to add some talent. And, one of the names I've seen mentioned was from Penn State, Lance Dixon. And he's from Michigan, so Michigan's obviously going to be a factor. But I know Tennessee has made contact from what I've read there. So, how much of a factor are they going to be? But adding some help there could be big for them. Secondary, I think you're looking, obviously your leader there is Alontae Taylor. He started for 2 years off and on. For the most part, started or been a factor at least. And then you've got Kenneth George. You've got Warren Burrell, or Burrell, ever how you pronounce it. You've got Jalen McCullough at safety. You got Trayvon Flowers. You got Theo Jackson. You got Sean Schamberger back. So plenty of guys who have played a lot of snaps here. And then, another guy we kept hearing about last year, and then you really didn't see him on the field much, was Tamarian McDonald, who came in with French and Eason, was a part of that trio who come in out of Memphis. Pretty intriguing size. Where does he play? Because I know there was mentioned he could kind of bounce between a few places. So does he play nickelback? Does he play safety? Does he play some linebacker? Could he beef up the linebacker or what right there? And then a couple other names. Tyus Fields, former 4-star recruit. Haven't really heard much of him. How could he factor in? Cheyenne LaBruza, right there. I know Willie Martinez mentioned him because when Willie Martinez was here the first time, they recruited him. And there was a lot of positive hype. They were pretty excited. And he mentioned him about a guy who a new life here could make a difference for him. And then I was looking over the defensive backs list, and a name that stuck out to me. He was a preferred walk-on, but the guy was a 3-star, Chase Bishop, the son of Blaine Bishop, who used to play at the Titans. What kind of factor? Obviously, he's got some good bloodlines, was apparently a pretty good player in high school, but, I don't know how big offers he had, but he did come to Tennessee as a preferred walk-on. Who knows? Maybe that's a guy that could move up as well. But looking at this defense, man, I think it just needs some coaching on it. Somebody that can adjust, somebody that can develop, somebody that can stop a freaking slant, for crying out loud. But I don't think all is lost with this defense. Right? I think it has potential to be a decent defense. Now, is it going to be the old Baltimore Ravens or the Windy City defense or anything like that? No, if you're expecting that, your expectations are way too high. But I think improvement, I think the way to judge this team, and I've said it each year, Jeremy Pruitt was there. Where are they at the end of the year? Year one, I felt like we saw minimal to no improvement. Year two, I felt we saw improvement. I felt we saw guys getting better. Last year, non-existent. Non-existent. So my question is here, and this is where I want to see this year. Where do they go? How do they improve? And, some other guys I didn't mention that could factor in at defensive back, Christian Charles. He's listed as an athlete, but from what I gather, he's going to start off at defensive back. Deshaun Rucker, safety out of Florida, supposedly a burner as far as speed. And then Cayman Marley, 6'2", 206 athlete. Where does he factor in? I think it was thought he would start at linebacker, but who knows? This staff may have other plans with him. Maybe he can play different places since he's listed as an athlete here. You've got some guys on the defensive line, Isaac Washington, and then I'm curious to see what they do with Trinity Bell. And, his dad's listened to some podcasts. Appreciate him on there. I'm curious to see where he's at. A 6'7", 260, you cannot teach that size. That's a guy who could possibly play tight end or defensive line. Either one. I think he's an intriguing guy based on his athleticism. Know he had an injury, so hopefully he's coming along good there. And then another guy that, will he play offensive line? Will he play defensive line? Amari McNeil there. So, this team has options. And, another defensive back I didn't mention was Danico Slaughter. Started the first game last year, and you didn't hear a lot of him. So there's guys with experience. There's guys with talent. What does Tim Banks do with these guys? What does Jean Marie? What does Willie Martinez, Rodney Garner, the special teams coach? I keep forgetting his name as well. You've got some guys who've had success, some guys who've been proven good coaches and good recruiters. I like this staff. I like this defensive staff that they've put together. I think they've got a little bit of everything, and they can cover different areas. They've got expertise in different areas, recruiting. I think you've got guys that are a combination of teacher and recruiter. And let's face facts down here. We need guys first and foremost that are teachers, who are coaches. They can develop these guys. They can start winning games. Recruiting's going to take care of itself. But, I think fans and recruits are alike with Tennessee. We want to see results at this point. And so that's what we're judged on. I feel that's where Jeremy Pruitt went wrong last year. He went recruiting opposed to coaching. And, I still say to this day, Jeremy Pruitt goes 8-2 or 7-3 last year. He's probably still the coach at Tennessee they would have fought a little harder for him. Just my opinion on it. Made it easier not to. But I'm done talking about him from this point forward. I'm gonna focus on what we got. Spring practice starts today. Got to be excited about that. So we probably have a few practices without pads or without full pads there, and then probably I'm guessing toward the end of next week, provided everything stays on track, I think you'll start seeing full practices. So development, what's this coaching staff able to get installed? Where can they go? Who stands out in this spring? Who a wrestling reference, who's gonna grab the brass ring and go with it right here? Who wants it? These guys have been putting the work in. We're gonna see how it translates here. So again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, and make sure you check us out. Hopefully we'll be able to go live again one night next week. Be on the lookout for Boogie's gonna drop a practice video tomorrow. There'll be videos throughout the weekend and leading into the next live show as well. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Y'all take care. Have a good day, and go Vols.